Welcome to the Hop Edition podcast, brought to you in association with The Malt Miller, your go-to choice for premium homebrewing ingredients and equipment. Whether you're a beginner starting out or an experienced brewer, The Malt Miller has got you covered. So for top quality products and customer service, jump over to themaltmiller.co.uk and tell them the Hop Edition sent you. We would also like to thank all our Patreons for their continued support with running and developing the pod. If you would like to become a member and gain access to exclusive perks and benefits, head over to patreon.com/the Hop Edition. Now it's time to get this pod started, so crack open a homebrew and enjoy the episode.
Hey, good evening, you wonderful humans. Welcome to episode 117 of the Hop Edition podcast, where today we are dressed as transcontinental truckers. We also have this amazing human, Guy Perry from Hopsteiner, who's joining us tonight to talk about lots of different things, to be perfectly honest. I should also let you know he's from Hopsteiner, which may explain the hats. But Guy, I met at Beer X, and as I said, there were some mad flavors on his stand, little additions and bottles of stuff and beers and hot packets and all sorts of stuff. And he had one of these hats on, which you may have noticed I have and the other two lads don't. Just not rubbing it in, boys, or anything, but I've got this one and you don't. And it's some mental stuff was going on, and I was hooked by a hop called a Laura that I tried. Whose beer was it, Guy, that I tried? Which brewery made that beer?
Oh, I can't remember now. We had 5 beers on the stand, 2 on draft. It could very well have been 2 Tribes or somebody like that. Yeah, from London, I believe. One of them was in a can, and I tried that one. Anyway, so I tried this, and it was absolutely gorgeous. It was a really, really nice beer with some very unique flavors in it, and that was it. I got chatting to Guy. Next thing you know, you're coming on the pod. He's like, yeah, I'll come on the pod. And the next thing, we've organized it, and Guy's on the pod, and I ended up buying 2 kilos of Allura, as you do. However, I had made a plan to brew a couple of beers with some of the samples that Guy had given me. You're all aware of my time team expedition. You're all aware of my back being blown out. And over the last 2 days, I've actually had COVID. So, you know, I've not really had a chance to brew much. Life is smiting me quite hard. But luckily, my main man, Owen, the man with the gorgeous hair, that's the man right there. Yeah, he's hooked us up. He's brewed a beer with Allura. We're going to drink that later on. We're going to talk to Guy about it. And as always, massive thanks to our partner sponsor, the Malt Miller, premier supply of all things homebrew. If you need anything, just go and get it. You know what they do by now. It's everything from barbecue rubs to pizza ovens to kegs to taps to every possible ingredient you can think of to go in beer. And they also have a selection of recipe kits from us and from previous guests, and things like that. So go over, check them out. I'm not entirely sure if there's a sale on this weekend. There was last week. I don't know if that's finished, but go over, check out the Malt Miller. They're awesome. We love Rob and Stiffo and the guys. So yeah, welcome, Guy. Oh, thank you for having me. It was eventful Beer X, and it was it was a really good show. Actually, it was nice to see a little bit of bit more enthusiasm in the brewing industry these days as well. They're
it's
all
not quite as flat as it was, is it?
No, there seems a bit more optimism than has been of late.
Yeah, it was a good one. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was Liverpool. What's not to enjoy? It's a beautiful place, but the stands and everything, the people I was talking to, it was really, really good. So yeah. Whilst you're going to talk to us, hopefully, about Hopsteiner, Steiner hops, is it Hopsteiner, Steiner hops, which one?
We're happy. Well, we're Hopsteiner as a group, but we're Steiner Hops Limited in the UK.
Okay. Whilst sort of you let us know about that, we're all going to drink one of Owen's beers, because Owen didn't just hook us up with one beer, did you, buddy? hooked us up with a few.
Yeah,
So we're going to start
trio.
with this one, and then we'll move on. So we're all drinking the same thing. So let's just go. Let's just do this.
Let's do it.
Go on.
Do you want
Tell
me
us
to
about the beer, yeah.
Tell you a little bit about the beer. So it is a New Zealand Pilsner made predominantly with the Hop Revolution blend from the Hop Revolution, which from memory is a blend of Motueka, Nelson, Rawaka. I can't. Anyone else want to help me out with what
Pacific
might be in there?
Sunrise,
Yeah,
possibly some other hops.
I think there's 4 or 5 different
There's
hops
a few,
that they obviously chuck in and blend up and then pelletize. And I also, just for good measure, added some more Nelson because everyone needs more Nelson in their life, right?
I think they specify in that blend that the Nelson is like late harvest Nelson or something, so apparently that makes it more funky or fruity or whatever. I don't know. Who knows?
Funky and fruity. I will say the hops Tricky was kind enough to send me some, so thanks, Tricky. The pellets out of the bag were just smelling like crazy, like fruit salad vibes just coming out of the bag, which was amazing. But the base recipe is fairly simple. I think it's floor malted Bohemian Pilsner from Viemann's, a little bit of Vienna malt and a bit of wheat malt. And then I went with a fairly sort of conservative 50 grams of each hop in the whirlpool and 25 grams in a dry hop of each. So there's not a huge amount of hops in this. I didn't really want to turn it. I didn't want to turn it into a hazy pale, right?
Definitely not hazy.
And it's only been in the keg for a couple of weeks, so it's still pretty young. Still pretty young. I did also put some of the Revolution blend through the boil as well, so at 10 minutes and 5 minutes, and I bittered with Magnum. That's about everything you need to know. And I fermented it out with WHC Après Ski, which I think is their Swiss lager.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Say yes.
Carbonation's on point.
Rumoured to be the Hurlemans
Thanks.
strain, apparently, I think, that après ski, isn't it? But not
That's
that
a
I
lovely
know
yeast.
anything about Hurlemans, but yeah.
It's a lovely yeast.
Pretty pleased with it.
Go on then, Guy.
I mean, I was saying I was drinking my version of it beforehand, and it is a bit different, and perhaps the yeast is the reason why it's a bit different. But
What did you use? 3470?
yeah, well, the Y Yeast 2124, which is a liquid version of that, although I think it's a little bit different to 3470. But yeah, what do you think, Guy? Are you enjoying this one?
It's nice and balanced. I think the malt against the bitterness is nice. It's very drinkable, but it is that fruit salad aroma, just like the little sweets you used to get. Yeah, you really do get that.
Yeah, and Chris said berry, and I was like, nah, you're not getting berry off of like Nelson and all that. I'm like, actually, to be fair, it's a bit berry on that.
It was just a huge hit of like blackcurrant as I swallowed it. Just went boom and just hit, and then I'm like, oh wow, and then it just fruit salad.
If you give it a swirl, you definitely get like a berry note on the nose.
Yeah, it's blackcurrant, straight blackcurrant. It's lovely. So anyway, we can continue talking about this hop, but I kind of want Guy to get into Hopsteiner sort of as a company, because I believe, from my personal standpoint, the reason why I was very, very interested was kind of gone under the radar for the homebrewers as Hopsteiner, not really sort of banging the gong. And I've looked through your hops, and you've got quite a lot of hops that I've gone, oh, I really like that. Oh, I really like that one. Oh, I really like that one. And there's some new things.
And some hops that we've not heard of at all before.
Yes.
Like Lotus,
Lotus,
for example, is a new one to me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we've been around since 1845, and in the UK since, well, for 51 years now. I think because we've always been a small team, we really couldn't get around too many brewers. I mean, when I started brewing, there were 60 to 80 brewers in the UK. Now we've got like 1,700. So I think we haven't spent huge amounts on marketing, etc. We've just, as you say, flown under the radar. A lot of the commercial brewers know who we are, deal with us on a regular basis, year on year. And I think we're starting to shout from the rooftops a little bit more about the things we've done, because we've always been innovators. We were the first ones that did type 45 hops, whatever you want to call concentrated hops, whether that's cryo or whatever. I think we had the patent on that in 1989. So yeah, we've always been innovators, and I think at the moment our main focus is on new varieties, but that's mainly due to sustainability and climate change, because it really is affecting quite a few of the older varieties, certainly in Germany. And we've seen some of the established varieties in the US, such as Cascade. If you grow that in the Yakima Valley, it sort of belies its fuggle background, shall we say. Doesn't like the heat, expresses itself differently. And, we go over there and purchase hops, and we choose them blindly. We buy from Oregon rather than the Yakima Valley, where it's getting too hot. So that's where we're a bit different. Imagine this remeat landing on your desk, scaring the earth for wild males. We've been looking for hops that grow in adverse conditions, etc., and then crossing them with varieties that we know and like, and then ensuring they're, even before we get to the aroma side, at least we know we can grow them. So I think, we're pioneers, innovators, but quite conservative about it. We don't really shout from the rooftops, which, hopefully I'm starting to do now.
Well, can I suggest, if you're scouring the earth for wild males, you don't have to go very far, mate. There's loads of them in Nottingham. And also Guildford. There's a shed load in Guildford, especially around, what's it called? The big nightclub, Bojangles. Normally on a sort of Saturday morning about 2 a.m, there's a load of them, trust me. Sort of poking a bit there at where I went to uni. But, it's like, it's one of those things, Steiner hops, I've not, like I said, not heard of them. And then hit your website and it's like, oh, I know that. Oh, what's this? And then there's these new products that you've got on the market and stuff, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I think, first of all, what's your role at Hopsteiner? What do you do?
Well, I'm classed as regional and export sales manager. But at the same token, everybody within the team has got a level of autonomy. We do purchasing. We're involved in innovation teams. Because the thing is with Hopsteiner, nearly all our sales guys that are out on the road, we're all ex-brewers. We speak the same language to the brewers. So when we have a new product, we've always got good contacts, because obviously we were brewing a new brewers before we started this role, or our roles. And I think that there's a lot of synergy between us and people we work with, small brewers or large brewers alike. I suppose we almost act as consultants in some respects. And on the back of that, we sell hops. We've got to have a reason for us doing that for free. We advise, we help a lot of brewers with low and no beers, certainly with our new products, or how to produce a new low and no beer with, their existing recipes. So, you have to make a few tweaks here and there, but I can't divulge too much. It's great. It's absolutely brilliant to be out there and, solving other people's problems that aren't my own anymore as a brewer.
Sounds good. I had a conversation with Alex from Lalmand, and their new their new yeast called Loner. I said to her, have you got any packs of that? And she just turned around to me and she said, we're not selling that one to home brewers. We don't want people to kill themselves. And it's like, it's a 0.5% beer. And then you realise just how scarily difficult it must be to brew something at 0.5% and not kill people. Because essentially,
You don't want bombs, do you?
Not really. No, not
Be that glass or aluminium.
anything like that. Yeah, absolutely. We don't want that. So yeah. Question: kind of what's the setup? What's the setup at Hopsteiner? Are you growers? Are you sellers? Are you a bit of both? Are you?
We're everything. We're a breeder. We're a grower. We've got 4 rather large farms in the US. In Germany, a lot of the growers are independent. We've got farms in Slovenia, Czechia, Spain, China. We tend not to export those. I mean, really, they're Mittelfru and Sarts under different names, but yeah, we're truly global. We grow in so many different places, which gives us experience. We can try out new varieties in different terroir, if you like. So we know that they can perform anywhere. So yeah, our main operations are in Yakima for the US, Germany, a place called Meinberg. It's north of Munich. They're our 2 major operations, and then you've mentioned Guildford. We're not far outside Guildford, where we're based in the UK. So we've got our own stores there, cold storage. We don't do any processing. We really we sort of act as an agent almost in the UK. So we're a sales desk really for our. And we also buy UK hops as well, but all the growers are pretty much independent. So, we buy and then get them processed and then ship them out to our stores near Guildford. So yeah.
So do you have any processing capability in the UK, or do you buy up UK hops and then send them to Germany to return to the UK? Or
it depends on the customer. We can process in the UK, but yeah, bulk. If they're going for export globally, we tend to get them processed in Germany. They've got to go to Germany anyway as a distribution hub, if you like. If it's about sustainability. We consolidate shipments. So if there's large consignments going to the US, which there isn't really the hot market to do that in the UK as such, so we tend to consolidate shipments. So yeah, we'll ship to Germany and they'll process them there, and then they'll go from there. So they'll all land up in Germany well before Christmas, and yeah, processed straight away really.
Awesome. We do get some questions coming in on the live chat. And we've had a good one from a gentleman he's not actually been a patron for very long, but I understand that he's been listening for a while. He's actually in Georgia, the country, not the state. And he says, I hope you can see this on the screen, do you think climate change will open new hop markets, maybe at the detriment to old ones?
That's a very good question. But the thing is, hops are only grown within certain latitudes globally. So it's the 35th to 50th latitude. So as you can imagine, you look at Yakima, the UK, Germany, Spain, and then you look at the southern hemisphere where it's more poignant. South Africa's barely touching that sort of level of latitude, obviously negative. And then you've got the southern tip of Australia, North Tasmania, the north of South Island in New Zealand. So it's only a very small area due to daylight length. So hops won't reach maturity without sort of a 15-hour day length at the height of the growing season. So no, it shouldn't really open up too much more. You may see a slight shift, but yeah, it really won't make much difference.
So it's more likely to change the nature of the hops in the existing regions rather than move the regions themselves.
I think it will change the varieties. It will change the varieties as climate change happens, which I know there's the naysayers, but certainly hops will tell you that it's certainly changing. So I think that's why it's important that our breeding program takes that into account. You mentioned Georgia. We had some wild males from Georgia. Male hops, I really want to put that to bed. So yeah, that's quite dry in the summer. So they would maybe exhibit drought tolerance, for argument's sake. So if you cross that male, so we actually put together a whole matrix of genetic information. So we knew certain varieties were disease tolerant. So you look for other varieties that exhibit the same markers, and you can build up this matrix. So we can look for males, scan the DNA of a male, and then just cross-pollinate. We're not genetically modifying, but we're being very selective on what we hybridize the hops with.
So you have your own internal hop breeding program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and is that almost kind of where a lot of the are there certain hops that are unique to Hopsteiner? So like Lotus, Trident, Allura. There are certain. So are those copyright and specific to Hopsteiner? Yeah.
I think when you invest so much on research and development, you do need to protect those varieties. I mean, the first variety that we did was completely disease resistant was Apollo. And the biggest problem with that, we learned from that the mold will actually mutate to attack it. So we needed to, we actually had to crossbreeding disease tolerance rather than complete resistance. You don't want to create super molds like super bugs. So yeah, it seems to be working very much for us. The aroma then comes later, so you can have a load of females because obviously it's the female plant. We'll plant them out, see how they perform in the field. We know they're going to be disease tolerant, so it does shorten the whole process as well by about 3 years, maybe even 4. So which normally it takes 10 to 12 years. So yeah, it's really working for us. It's working in Germany. We've got a new variety called Acquia, and that's to replace Perla, because that's been down with the summers that have been having up to 50%. We can't keep having that. The brewer needs reassurance that the hops are going to be there when they contract them. So that's what we're doing from our end. Yeah, and of course it does throw out a few curveballs along the way, such as Allura.
Oh, okay. So that was a happy accident then, was it?
Sorry, go on.
Well, I won't say happy accident. I mean, the thing is, we've had some great varieties in the past. I can always remember when I started with Steiner about 13 years ago that we had a hop 6300 and it was just coconut. It really was. But as you were picking, if you can imagine a cone and the strig down the middle, we'd lost half of the bracts and bracteoles, and we just left with the bottom and the strig. By the time you picked it, you got nothing left. But it was a great hop. So we need to ensure that, certainly in this day and age, that the agronomics are certainly there. Yeah.
Wow.
What are the biggest sort of Hopsteiner specific varieties that you do that people might be familiar with? Because there's quite a few names off the list that we just talked about that not necessarily ones that I'm massively familiar with, but what are the kind of biggest selling Hopsteiner originals, as it were?
I think the thing is, I mean, we've had a lot of our varieties out there when we weren't dealing with the smaller guys. When we were such a small team, we couldn't get around everybody. So we were allowing other people or people requesting to sell our hops, of which we were quite happy to do so. So Apollo, Bravo, Calypso. There's one called Delta that was bred as a replacement for Willamette for a rather large brewery in the US. And then you've got the likes of Eureka, and then our new varieties. Lemon Drop's really quite popular on the market. That's one of ours. Then you're looking at the new varieties, the Alluras. Erebus is a new one, which is absolutely fantastic. That really exhibits blueberry notes. We had it in a Texan Brown, which was a new beer category on me. It was somewhere in between a porter and a stout, but it really tasted like blueberry muffins and toasted tea cakes, from the hop, and it really shone through and cut through all that heavy malt bill. So it's really working for us. And there's a lot of excitement. And I think when brewers are challenged, I mean, you guys know, you do your brew and you think damn, I've only got 80% yield out of that. And on a commercial scale, that's huge money. So that encourages us to develop new products that were much more suitable. It's using hops more efficiently and effectively within the brewery. So again, that's another side of us that, we develop innovative products from these sustainable hops.
Yeah, there's a few names in there that are ringing a few bells. I think Bravo and Calypso have been around for quite a while. And some fairly well-known craft beers, I think. I'm pretty sure from having tried to do a clone recipe of it quite a long time ago, are they used in Gamma Ray, or they were used in Town Gamma Ray at one point? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I'm not giving any secrets away there, and you're certainly not, because they used to publish their recipes, didn't they? But it's an interesting hop, Calypso. I was talking to Chris about Calypso. He seems to like it. It's really
I've not used it in a long time, but from what I remember,
it's the highest hop in 4-MMP, which helps during fermentation to sort of facilitate flavor and aroma production. So I always find
biotransformation precursor as well, is it? I think.
That's right.
Bio thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's bound. It's better used in the whirlpool, so it does free it up. But and then you mentioned Bravo. That's the hop that's highest in geraniol. So that gets biotransformed into beta-citronellol. So even though some hops drug differently to the way they perform in beer, and that is a hop that does that in beer. Yeah.
We've had a question which is very specific, considering it's Brooksy, and he's very rarely specific. He wants to know, is that a Dudley accent?
Yeah, about 3 miles away. Just far enough.
Far enough that it's not Dudley.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
There we go. Next question comes from, well, actually, one of the points that you made, Thomas came back to it. Now, you won't know Thomas, but Thomas is one of the originals. He's a Hop Edition original, and he's an absolute legend, and we're all convinced he's actually Santa. Okay? Trust me.
Not me.
If you stick around for the after party, trust me, this dude is Santa. And he says he grows them in Sweden, right at the top end of Sweden. That's where he grows hops.
Yeah.
So, and apparently they've been grown commercially for 150 years in Sweden. So clearly, you may not get the optimum yield, but you're certainly getting some.
I mean, it's feasible. It's variety dependent as well. So, for argument's sake, Cascade, when that's grown in the US, we'll harvest pretty much the first week in September. When you grow it in the UK, it will be the first week in October. So if it's not hanging around too long, I haven't seen too many no Scandinavian hops on the market. But it is feasible to do so, but it's not optimal.
So would that explain? Just thinking again, scientists. Sorry, my science sense, spidey sense, just kicked in. Would that explain the difference between UK Cascade, with the fact that, and please, if you grow it, I apologize, it's crap, I hate it. And then American Cascade, which obviously we all know, hashtag grapefruit, and then New Zealand Cascade, which they renamed Taiheki. And obviously all three of those hops they express completely differently in beer. Is that obviously it's going to be down to the growing conditions, but also could the time of harvest change as well?
It will do, but also I think you've got to think about, terroir, they talk about that more so with grapes than hops. I think it's more to do with the intensity of daylight as well, because in the Yakima Valley it is getting warmer, but they've still got irrigation, and the Cascades probably going a little bit more spicy, a bit more like the New Zealand version. I don't see that. And in the UK, it's not having chance to develop a lot of myrcene. Now, myrcene will get flashed off during the brew, but it's about intensity as well. Hops do need a certain level of stress as well to express themselves.
Just like a good yeast.
Stress in what sense? Like when they're being grown, Guy, or
during
the growing process?
Well, if growing conditions are absolutely perfect, why would the plant feel it needs to reproduce?
Right.
It's I mean, in the UK the hops are seeded, but elsewhere, they tend to rip out the males. Some people think seeds are negative, but in the UK it's a little bit different because the time when all the molds are around is a time of pollen. So it's good that they're pollinated, and then obviously the flower closes up, which is the burr, and then produces the fruit, which is the hop. So it seals it away from any more harmful molds, fungus, or anything like that. So that's why the idea behind UK hops being seeded and pollinated. Yeah. So
Okay. Yeah.
That's properly interesting. That's
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, what's new in the world of hops globally then? What's coming out? What should we be looking out for? Because we're the hop edition. Obviously, we should be talking about hops. And as you've just drunk one of Owen's beers, we're all quite enthusiastic about the brewing and trying new things and whatnot. So, what's new on the market that we should be hitting?
I think it's all about efficiency and sustainability. A lot of, as I mentioned earlier, big brewers, they can be losing up to 20% of their beer dry hopping. And people are moaning about the price of everything going up. I have seen hopping rates come down a little, but even so, I think it's about efficiency. So brewers can survive when the cost of everything's going up. Subtle hint there. So one way we do that, we produce a variety specific CO2 extract. And what we can actually do, if any of you home brewers out there ever used ISO 30 or Tetra in beer for head retention or just bittering, you realize it doesn't smell of hops at all. So what we do, we've got a patented way that we can separate the alpha from the rest of all of the other hop constituents, which then leaves all of the oils. I mean, Chris has just thrown up those bottles there. You look at the oil contents and they're like 17, 18%, because once you remove the alpha from a 50% CO2 extract, you're doubling the oil straight away. So I can't see which one that is. Yeah, Trident Salvo, 17.5% oil. You go and buy a hop oil at 17% and see how much that costs you. Whereas this product, because we can actually sell the alpha. So not only do we work in breweries, we deal with companies producing bioethanol. So we can sell them the ISO alpha. It protects the yeast during their fermentations, so it doesn't produce lactic acids or acetic acids instead of alcohol. So that's more efficiency for those guys. But of course, it means we can offset that against the price to the brewer as well. For something like Salvo, it's a Whirlpool edition. We found that a kilo of that can replace 10 kilo of hops, and it can replace pellet. It is a full replacement because all the flavour constituents are there, but also reduce dry hopping by anything up to 50%, depending on the brewer.
And
of course,
increasing yield. Yeah,
very much so. I mean, I had one brewer I was working with, and they got an extra 30 litre kegs out on a 60 hect brew.
That's a decent monetary saving, is that one?
Yeah. And this product costs about the same as hops. The Type 90 equivalent.
So this can go all the way through the brew in terms of like in the boil as a dry hop. Even
you would just add it Whirlpool or flame out.
Okay, so not during the boil, but just Whirlpool. Not dry hopping though.
No, not dry hopping. That's a warm edition. We've got Salvo Plus for the dry hopping, which is water soluble.
Right. Okay. So there is. There's two. You have got two different versions of the same product.
I haven't seen that on your website, Guy.
Not in the UK as of yet. I'm doing some trials. I'd like to invite any brewers that would like to try it and use it, because job done. Job done there. I'm going. No, I think with this product, it's meant to. It's not variety specific because you get so much oil carryover that is variety specific from the whirlpool. It's just a lift, if you like.
Yeah.
It's that's not a replacement for dry hopping, but it just gives some of the other top notes back that you may have lost during the brewing process.
Well, if you're after a small brewery to actually do some of the work on the trials for you, there's a gentleman in the chat who's actually a really good mate of mine, Simon Seaton, and he says, I'll happily try it on 4 barrels for you. He's got a small brewery.
Fantastic.
He'll chuck one in for you. So,
drop me an email.
Simon, I'll send me a message and I will send you guys email and you can talk to him about that. But he's, this sounds good. We've also we've done a little bit of work with another UK hop grower and company. So if you want to chuck us some over, we'll throw a beer together and see what we can come up with.
We can make graphs.
We do graphs.
We do graphs.
And we can turn around beers pretty quick.
Radar charts.
Radar charts. Gotta love a spider chart. We've also got Hoddy at Maverick as well.
There's Hoddy. Yeah.
Also, good friend of the podcast.
What's his name? Daikeed, who's up in the chat. He's up in Georgia. He's a brewer. I'm sure he'd be more than willing to help you out. You see, we're facilitators as well as people who drink beer and talk about beer.
There you go.
But yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, before I go out and sell a product, I like to work with brewers to know exactly where we're at. You can't tell somebody what to do if you don't know what you're doing yourself. So I think it's really important that I still brew, get out there. We do collabs. I've got a few in the pipeline. On our Instagram, you can see, we've worked with so many people. There's my colleague Matthias and Ed. They both are out there doing collab brews, 360 Brewing, Windsor and Eton. We do all sorts. It's great fun to still be involved with brewing rather than just buying and selling hops. It is great, and no day's ever the same. 1 week you might be working with a pharmaceutical company. Next week you might be, you might get a phone call from a cosmetics company wanting xantho humol, an antioxidant that's that's sort of only present in hops. So yeah, it's exciting. It's certainly when we get new varieties come through, we just can't wait to get our hands on them and get in the brewery. It's great.
It's that excitement, isn't it? And I will second Simon's latest chat message, which is, get up to Yorkshire, mate. Water's good beer.
Get up to Yorkshire.
Yorkshire. Everything's better in Yorkshire, including the pies. Right then. I think at this point it's time. Owen, calm down, Tricky. Jesus Christ.
That's really good though. You're gonna have to move this one on because it's going down.
God. Okay, I think we're gonna
stuck in.
I think we're gonna hit Owen's second beer right now, which is his Allura beer. I will hand over to the coiffure gentleman himself to tell us a little bit about it.
The suit podcaster.
The only one of us with hair. Yeah, let's go with that.
Let me get my notes. So this is a hazy pale. Made with Allura and Idaho 7. Let's have a little looky at the recipe. So this is, I think, loosely, the grist is loosely based on the Moot Kappa grist. Which, have you heard of Moot Brewery? Guy, they're based in. Are they Kent? Are they sort of Kent way? As far as I remember,
Kentish American Pale Ale, isn't it? So.
Yes, of course it is. Yeah, we had them on the podcast a little while ago. Great bunch of guys, and they kindly shared their recipe for Kappa, and I've pretty much been using their grist since for any of my hazy pales, and I think it's fantastic. So. More to the point, getting to the hops, I used 25 grams at 5 minutes in the boil, just to kind of try and layer in, just a little bit of bitterness to the beer to balance it out, and second of all, just to add, just to see what different level of complexity I might be able to just get into the beer. I didn't go crazy there. I used 100 grams in the Whirlpool, 50 grams of Idaho 7 in the Whirlpool as well. So I wanted to try and kind of push the Allura a little bit. The Idaho was just there to support. And then I dry hops with 150 grams of Allura and 50 grams of Idaho 7. But bear in mind the Idaho 7 was cryo. So that kind of probably constitutes, what, the equivalent of 100 grams as T90s. And I fermented it with Haze Heaven from WHC, which I think is dried London fog. So, which I think might just be a London Ale 3 derivative. Boddingtons. Yeah. What do you think, guys?
It's nice and fruity. Yeah, definitely getting that
nice beer.
Asian fruit through, which you normally get from Allura.
I was literally thinking fruit. Asian fruit, of which I don't have the proper names for any of them. Yuzu must be one of them.
Asian fruit.
Yeah. I don't shop in Holland and Barrett. So
What's that one? Lychee.
Lychee. That was the one I was trying to find.
Chinese pear. That kind of super fruity, like really almost citrusy pear.
Yeah.
And I'm getting melon, but like honeydew rather than watermelon.
Yeah.
And I'm getting like I'm getting some like red berry, but not quite red berry. Kind of. Do you know what I'm like? Yeah.
Sort of cranberry.
Difficult to describe. Yeah. Almost like a hint of sourness, like a sharpness almost. But just fucking melon. Melon.
I think the biggest thing with this hop, normally when you see your hop oils, they're myrcene, caryophyllene, humulene, etc. The highest oil in this, which is 50%, is celanine, and that is what's in yuzu fruit. And as you mentioned, these sort of they're not the Chinese lanterns, but there's a little tiny orange that you eat whole. They're not kumquats.
No,
I can't remember the name of them.
Oh my god, syphilis. No, physalis. Physalis.
It's definitely not
Yummy.
syphilis.
I weren't far off. The syllables were the wrong way round. Stop giving me shit.
Physalis peruviana was the one you were looking for. Google
called
didn't help me out with that at all.
Physalis. Syphilis. Syphilis, that's the one. No, it's physalis.
The itchy crotch fruit. That's what it is.
Give up.
I'm never going to use you guys as my marketing team at all, I tell you.
We're all going to go blind.
Yeah, don't put that on their flavour descriptors for that hop.
Yes,
not help you
physalis, that's the one. That's the one. They come with the leaves still attached, and you pull the leaves off and you eat the whole thing. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with that hop oil, I mentioned a myrcene earlier. That's normally flashed off with heat. It's flashed off or assimilated during biotransformation. The beauty of celanine, if you rub Allura and then taste a beer with Allura in, they go hand in hand. It does what it says on the tin, because it's not a volatile oil. It carries on through into the beer. So yeah.
And is there? I was reading up that there might be another type of oil that's unknown to hop chemistry or something like that, Guy.
There's so many. We've only scratched the surface. I mean, at the moment we've spent a small fortune on. We analyse every single batch of hops that come in into our stores, just to check the oil content and whatever. And because these machines are so sensitive, I mean, you've got to remember that different oils, different flavours. They've all got different thresholds where you can actually taste them. Some might be nanograms, some might be milligrams, etc., etc. So yeah, it's a new world as machines get more sensitive. It is opening up a new world for everybody at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, so we're kind of learning and discovering as we go along, and yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, not everybody just buys Fuggles and Goldings and puts it in a brown beer. Not knocking any of those, because that's where I came from. I'm showing my age. I started Sarah Hughes Brewery doing a 6% mild and a 5% bitter. It's there's nothing wrong with those at all. But yeah, it's diversity that people want now in hops, definitely.
Just on a sort of tangent off of that kind of conversation, quite often when you see the aroma descriptors on websites for different hops and things, sometimes they can be a little bit like, generic and kind of like, tropical fruit and the rest of it. On your website, it's like peach, yuzu fruit, sweet melon, apricot, which based on this beer at least seems to be pretty much bang on. But the question was kind of like, so what, when you're working out what you're going to put on like an aroma description, what's the process for you guys as far as doing that? Do you have like a panel of tasters that sort of go in blind, or is it a combination of that and some sort of actual scientific analysis, or how does that work?
It's a mixture of all of those. I mean, we've got a flavor technologist who knows what's there because of our analysis that I've just mentioned. I think then everyone's got different flavor thresholds. It's no good saying it if only 10% of people can spot it. And I think everybody's been guilty of it in the past, where you get a load of brewers in, come to do hop selection for their Cascade, their Centennial, their whichever variety, and you throw a new variety in front of them. They go, I can smell this, I can smell that, I can, you won't believe some of the things we've heard. But I think everybody writes these down, no matter how sort of off the wall they may be. And really, you've got to use science behind it as well. If there's a certain percentage that can smell yuzu fruit, or indeed
so
no,
there's
only going to be
what should it taste of, and then what do people actually taste in it, and
what are they actually smelling, rather than
where do those two meet, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you must say you use like a kind of blind panel of people that can taste the beer and then try and get kind of commonality in their perceptions, and then you kind of okay, that's how we then market that hop.
I think we also go through brews first, because it's no good. I mean, there's certain varieties that you rub and you go, that's fantastic. And there's no way that that's going to be present in the beer when you come to drink it. So I think, it doesn't just stop at the sniffing, rubbing, and identifying what people are smelling, shall we say. Our descriptors tend to be a little bit more concise, because that's what people are getting in the beer rather than what you get on the rub, because that's almost immaterial in some respects.
Yeah.
Just to jump in, one more question that's just coming off the chat from our Georgian friend. Is Allura available in a sort of cryo CGX T45 kind of super hop version?
I think one of the reasons, I mean, we, as I mentioned, we were the first to produce Type 45s. There's probably two reasons why we no longer, I won't say needed the patent and letting everybody pay us to produce concentrated hops, whichever you want to call them. All our varieties were coming in at like sort of 17% alpha, and then 4% oil. There was no need to concentrate them. So when the oil levels are so high, because I mean, you mentioned about using cryo in your beer. It's not. It might be called Type 45, but it's not 45% stronger. There's a limit to the level of what you can pelletize. So normally, depending on the variety, you're probably talking about 22 alpha. So if you concentrated hops up to 22 alpha, above 22 alpha, you can't actually make pellet from them, because Hopsteiner didn't know what they were doing. People were doing 35% alpha powders, and they just realized they couldn't make pellets out of it. So yeah, there's a limit to where you can go with pellets. So yeah, if your hop's already 17% alpha, it's not worth putting it through another processing, however efficiently, and whatever aromas you don't lose. it's not worth concentrating it further. So most of our varieties are a lot higher now. So there's no need. We still do a lot of the German hops as concentrated hops, because Type 45s weren't actually meant to be 45%. Type 90, the name, this is where it's confusing. You normally got about 90% yield when you produce pellet from leaf. Whereas the Type 45s, it was a form of standardization. So the big global brewers, didn't matter whether they're brewing in South America or whether they're brewing in Eastern Europe, they might have been using different varieties, different alphas. So what we do is standardize the hops and say, right, these are all 15 alpha. They knew how much to add per hectolitre. And if you've got a problem in your brewery, don't phone us, because we'd standardise the hops, so all the brewers knew how much to add.
Right.
So that's where Type 45s came from.
So what you're saying is Type 45s would get, regardless of varietal, would get the alpha to the same level. What
I'm saying is you could standardise the hops and say the brewer wanted 15 alpha, we can do that.
Right.
Obviously, if the process is, the batch size is big enough. But something like Sarts at 2%, we could double the alpha of that, double the concentration. But when you've got something at 13, you're not going to be doubling that, because it's going to be, you won't be able to make pellets.
You can't pelletize it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Okay.
Yeah. What's the advantage of pelletizing? Why do we need to pelletize?
Can't get the staff tricky. Tricky's missus has just bobbed in. Hi, Ginny. How you doing?
Quick battery change for the nightlight for Elsie.
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay.
Say hi, Ginny.
Hi, Ginny. You're live on YouTube. Tell her she's live.
You're live on the. Yeah, I think she's got that.
I think she knows. She knows, and she's giving no shits.
Oh no! What are you doing? You've got the battery.
Oh man. She's
anyway,
awesome.
Where did I get to? I've forgotten what I was asking now.
Right, leaf to pellet.
Yeah, pelletizing. Why do we have to pelletize? Why can't we, if we produce a 20% alpha, can we not just sell it as powder?
You could, but as soon as you get to that sort of level of alpha, you'd end up with just a block of resin. That doesn't sound very good, does it?
Yeah. So that would be that would be really difficult to be able to then kind of effectively use, right? So, yeah.
And another thing pelletizing does, so you can imagine leaf hops picked off, the bines, dried, pressed. The lipuling glands are quite whole. What you've got to remember when you do pelletizing is there is a little bit of heat involved, and you're actually almost juicing the lipuling glands, which you've probably seen as little yellow globules under the microscope. And what you're actually doing is pushing that into the leaf, and it acts as a carrier, increases surface area, and that's why you tend to get better aroma from pellet rather than leaf. I must admit, if you get fresh leaf, and I'm not talking about wet hop, I'm not too keen on that personally, because during the kilning process, there's certain volatiles that are flashed off, which you're not used to in beer. And I think it's very divisive that some people do. I'd say the majority don't, in all honesty. But with leaf, it degrades a lot quicker. With pellet, you've got a 5-year shelf life once it's packed in an inert environment. Whereas leaf, we'd probably only put a 2-year. Well, we'd only put a 2-year shelf life on it, even though they'll be fine afterwards. It's the best before. It's not sell by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, pellet is definitely more stable. Leaf once you produce leaf and you produce pellet, you may have driven off a little bit of the aroma from pellet, but after a few months, because leaf degrades so quickly, the pellet would be in much better condition, easier to weigh out, and more versatile.
Much more convenient, right? They take up less space.
Mm-hmm.
They're a lot easier to kind of manage, right? You're not 5 kilos in a pellet versus versus 5 kilos of leaf hops.
Mm-hmm.
It's like size-wise, quite different, aren't they?
I mean, the other thing to think of is that even though there's still quite a bit of leaf used in the UK, leaf hops really are only about 0.5% of the global production. So nearly 60% is pellet, and nearly 60% is extracts, which, in all honesty, surprised me when I joined Hopsteiner. When you look at the global hop market.
Yeah, I'm surprised by
Wow.
the amount of extracts now being used. Would you say that's ramped up a lot over the last couple of years?
I would say so. I think, as I mentioned earlier, brewers are looking at much more efficiency. The price of all of the fuel, etc., malt pricing, hop pricing, everything. It's just about gaining efficiency. But the thing is, it's not at the detriment to the beer. I think every product has got its own use. I don't feel as though oil is a replacement for hops. Oils are an adjustment rather than a replacement, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, I think it's about being more efficient and more savvy in the brewery, definitely. And as we mentioned earlier, yields. I mean, that an extra 10% beer out could be enough to save a business.
Yeah, totally. And the fact that the extracts have become they wipe their own face, right? Like that they are a good return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
So whilst they might be a little bit more expensive, they're clearly evidencing a better return. So I'm not surprised to have seen that kind of adoption of them.
Yeah, I think it's the efficiency, and they have got a lot better. I mean, something like Salvo, as I say, is a replacement as an extract. I mean, people have been using CO2 extract in the bittering for years, and also it gives you much more flexibility in your brewing. You don't have to guess the amount of alpha pickup you've got in your whirlpool. You can actually put a set amount in your kettle to whatever efficiency your kit performs at, and then have at it with the aroma. It's got everything in there that will help, sort of yeast flocculation. Well, not so much yeast flocculation, but certainly help yields. It's got all of the aids precipitation of proteins, certainly moving a little bit more hop back into the kettle. You're getting much better hop break. And a lot of brewers are reporting that use Salvo got a lot more stability in the can later. So any soluble proteins that would still be in the kettle aren't joining with the haze that you do want in your small pack and then precipitating out as sludge on the shelf. So yeah, I think it's just about being more savvy these days.
Yeah, well, it's a difficult industry to be in, isn't it? Like you've got to be very efficient with your capital and your revenue return, right? So,
absolutely. I think also is looking at hops. I think what is prudent is, you look at an artist's palette. He might only have 15 colours, but he can create everything under the sun with those colours. And I think brewers are also looking at the oil content of certain varieties. Like I mentioned, Bravo was high in geraniol, right? So, what hops high in citronella, or what hops? So you're actually creating your flavour palette from a certain number of varieties rather than just throwing something in these days.
Yeah.
Can I just jump in for a second and ask you two guys? I presume that you still have a little bit of Owen's Allura beer in your glass. Right, now that it's warmed up a little bit, stick with me on this one, because this one's going to be an interesting one. See whether or not you get the same as I do. When you drink it, and you swallow, and you take a big gulp of air, like a big breath in afterwards, is everybody getting that Chinese pear, just absolute smash coming out of your nose? Or is it just me?
I do know what you mean about the Chinese pear. I think it's the combination of the melon and the yuzu is almost creating that perception of Chinese pear. Yeah.
It's just epic.
I think sometimes you get because they'd be similar compounds, you get the olfactory sense that something's there, if that makes sense. So, you've got a flavour that's close. It can give that perception. I mean, we've got a variety called Solero, and that really
another
does
great
taste,
hop.
It does taste of mango, and it's got that slight pithiness that Alora's got. That's like you mentioned earlier. It's almost like there is fruit in there, and it's almost like there is actually fruit in there, and it does give you that sense.
Solero. I'm gonna have
Solero's
have a
an
look.
amazing hop.
Yeah, I'm keen to know a bit more about Trident as a hop variety.
Can we just hold off with that just for a second?
Sure.
Because Simon Seaton has a question about Salvo, and it is, how easy is Salvo to clean off the brew house? Because we all know that there are other liquid hop products out there which are, let's say, a massive pain in the arse to clean off the brew kit.
It's not called a Whirlpool edition for nothing. So if you've actually got a Whirlpool, and once you've got it going, and something like Salvo can just be warmed up, poured in, as long as it mixes, you've got full flow. Because it's more dense, it will go to the center. But yeah, it will stick if you just pour it in. Bear in mind, the oil content is so high, it will stick to the top and stick around the sides. What I would do is, in those scenarios where you're probably using it more in the kettle than the Whirlpool, is actually to dilute it with some of your wort first.
That's literally what I was going to suggest.
And then you pour it in away from the side, you pour it into the center of the beer. If you've had any issues with any other products, that would be exactly the same.
Is it beneficial to have a certain amount of pellets in with it at the same time to bind together?
You don't need to.
No.
You want it to go into solution.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a really flexible product because it's so high in beta acids, as I mentioned earlier, that we can sell off the ISO because you've got bittering in your beer, and then you're adding quite high levels of beta. It will protect a low alcohol beer as well. But I would, all of these extract products do tend to stick like the proverbial, but it's just, as Chris was already about to say, mix it, pour it in the center, don't pour it near the edge.
That's what I was going to say. And Simon's next question was literally going to be my next question. 60 mil, what does that equate to roughly in terms of pellet?
600 grams.
Holy shit balls.
Yeah. So if you look at so you mentioned Trident that you showed at the screen, 17.5%. Well, if you've got a 1%, it's 10 times the amount.
Okay.
So you probably don't want to be adding a full batch of that into your beer, Chris. Before I knew what question you were going to ask there.
Yeah, that's
I'll put a whole tin into my next.
I'll just pour the job lot into my next Whirlpool 23 litre batch and see what happens.
Well, this is how we work with breweries. I mean, it's more efficient than we ever hoped it would be because as a Whirlpool edition, say you're adding 10 kilos of hops at just to use the Trident as an example, 1.7% oil, and you're adding that at 17%, you're going to add a tenth of the amount. What we didn't expect was the amount of oil carryover into the FV. It was so much higher that, a lot of brewers had to reduce their dry hopping by 50%. So it's not just the fact that it replaces 10 kilos of hops. I mean, one brewer replaced 12 kilos in their Whirlpool. They're adding 12 kilos in their FV, and they had to reduce that to 6. So, it really is efficient stuff, and it is good. I was so excited to work with it, and it gave what it promised. As I mentioned, 10 times the hit. We didn't expect it to be quite as efficient as what it is.
Bearing in mind the rate that we'd likely be using it in a homebrew scenario, and also the fact that it seems to be extremely competitively priced on your website as well, which
that's
is
one way to put it.
Which would make it certainly attractive to me as far as something to experiment with at the very least. If I was going to use a little bit of it and leave some in the pot, like storage wise, what's the best thing to do in that situation as far as trying to keep it, in good condition, or is it not going to do very well if once it's been opened?
Right.
How
So
do we
the
deal
pots,
with that?
we do sell those pots on our website that Chris showed earlier. Those will keep, once opened, they'll keep for 6 months in the fridge.
Really? Okay. So
Once opened,
no worries really.
Well, the shelf life's 6 years. I mean, in all honesty, it normally comes in a tin.
So we're not likely to worry about oxidation issues with them or anything like that.
No. There's nothing in there to go cheesy. In fact, CO2 extract is 8 years, and to be honest, that's more to do with the tin than the contents.
Wow. Yeah. Simon appears to be quite interested in this, so he's currently throwing together an order. I just want to point one thing out, because this is like, I'm a very simple creature. Okay, I like things that look good, that work, and that are reasonably priced. Now, this clearly works, and this clearly is reasonably priced, but I will show you this. Because the packaging that stuff comes in from Hopsteiner also looks awesome.
Legit.
It's like an old trainer box, but it's just amazing. I love these.
Thank you.
Yeah. When my 2 kilos of Allura arrived and it turned up in a trainer box, I'm like, I didn't order any new Etnies. What's going off here? And then I opened it, it's like, oh, there's a shitload of hops. This is ace. No, it's really good. It's really good. So, yeah, very impressed. And I won't add the full 60 grams to my, or 60 mils to my next brew. I'll put 15 in instead.
Well, it's variety dependent.
Good
I mean, I've had some hops like Sultana, and when that came on the market, 17 alpha, 4%, maybe even 5% oil in some, some good crop years. And the brewers go, oh, look at the oil in that. And I'm like, well, all right, look, step back a bit. Look at this as being really good value. It's more than double the oil of everything else. You're using it for aroma, use half the amount. And of course, Sultana gives a really pungent pineapple aroma, and it's like fresh pineapple, which can be quite sharp, and hence the name piney. They've put it in the beer and they've gone, oh, it's too strong, it's too strong. It's like, what did I say? So they don't realize that some of our hop varieties are just so intense that you don't need to use as much.
The Scottish contingent, Andy, who's not here tonight because he sacked us off to go and watch the Wendy Ball, he's big into his Sultana. He loves Sultana. Is there a Salvo version of Sultana?
There is. Yeah, that's 22% oil.
Yeah, good luck with that one, Andy. So he's probably going to grab some of that. I know he was talking about grabbing some hops as well, but I'll be honest with you. It's new stuff. It's different varieties. It's what we want. We're, as home brewers, we are in the unique position of being able to make beers with new products and it not cost us the earth. Financially, it's very affordable. So that's what... Seriously, Brooksy, give it in, man. Do you have a mango forward version for my next Hefeweizen? I like a mango Hefe, guy. That's what he's referring to. Tell you something.
Depending on how much you want to buy, we do have one. We don't have the small bottles of Salvo, but we do have Solero, and that really does offer a huge mango hit.
And you don't offer a 60ml version?
Only a kilo at the moment, I'm afraid.
I mean, that's probably a bit much for a 23-litre batch, right?
Of Salvo.
It keeps for 6 years.
It might be, yeah.
It'd need to keep for 60 years,
You're going to be making a lot of mango fucking Hefe.
Jesus.
No, but we do
mango hef every brew day now for the rest of your life, Chris.
Wow.
We'll see what we can do, but at the moment, I mean, a lot of guys have been trialing this with those 60ml bottles, and because we've got so much experience now in its use, etc., we're quite confident to move forward. But we do need to think about you guys that need the smaller amounts. But yeah, we'll see what we can do.
I mean, one other thing I noticed is the variety of hops that are available on your web shop, B, that's accessible to home brewers, so it's not just like commercial only, and the smallest you can buy is 5 kilos. Although I think the smallest you can buy on here is a kilo, right? Generally.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is cool, because you could what we tend to do is like buy a kilo and then we'll split it into 4 250 grams and then just post it around the place. Although it does look a little bit dodgy once fact packed.
I've been stopped with hop samples at the airport.
Excuse me, sir. What is this?
Yeah.
How did that go for you, Guy, when that happened?
Well, they just went straight past those bags of hops, which was Slovenian experimental varieties. As I was leaving Slovenia, and they swabbed my laptop and my business cards. Just didn't even check the bags. It's quite bizarre, really. But yeah.
But really competitively priced as well, which is great to see.
I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I do look at ourselves more as consultants, recipe advice, etc., etc. So you'll probably see from the web shop that it is geared to the more technical side, with enzymes and testing kits and that sort of thing. So, I think it's just, for us, it's all about quality, producing decent beer, hopefully with decent hops. But yeah, it's, we do come from more the technical side. We're not selling malt, or anything like that. It's just the technical side.
But that's a good thing.
And I'm still keen to understand more about the Trident hop.
While we're doing that, can I please have the Märzen?
Oh. Yeah, we can.
I was about to say, because I just read on the website that it's actually a blend. Is that why you're going down this route, Owen, with the Trident?
No, I was just like, Chris has got the hat. I've not heard of this hop before. So it's obviously like an important poster child hop for Hopsteiner.
Hang on, because there's a story that goes with this, and I'm going to have a beer while Guy tells it, because I heard it at BeerX. You crack on.
Nice.
Well, we were approached by brewers to make an alternative for a Whirlpool edition, and they were asking us, can you match this profile, shall we say, this hop profile?
For a specific beer or for a particular hop variety?
It was a specific hop variety for a specific beer. So, we were approached and said, can you do a Whirlpool edition to keep costs down? It's proprietary. So what we did a GC of their beer, see if we could match the flavour profile that they wanted. And we thought, we can match that. We haven't got an alternative hop for what they wanted to replace. So basically we did a GC of their beer, see what oils they were getting out, and said, we can do that. So we did a few trials, and then it all got a bit nudge, that hop you do for such and such, it's like, we better name this now. It looks a bit surreptitious here. So that's where Trident came from. It was brewers asking us for a replacement of a certain variety that was very expensive at the time.
So what describe some of the kind of flavour profiles? What would you expect from Trident?
Well, certainly tropical and hugely citrus. It's it gives you some idea of what they wanted replacing. But stop it, Chris.
I'm sorry. I heard the story at BeerX, and to be fair, it was between Guy and me, and I'm never going to betray that, because it was a bloody hilarious story.
I didn't tell you what was in it, though.
No, you didn't tell me what was in it, but what you did tell me was exactly what was being replaced and everything. And I thought, do you know what? That's a really good way of going about it. So I'm just going to sit here and drink this Märzen, and you guys can crack on for a minute.
I'm going Mosaic personally. There's silence.
Silence.
Sorry, did my screen freeze then?
Oh yeah, must have been. Tricky's
but you
dropped out momentarily.
you can also stick it with Centennial and get another variety.
Okay, interesting.
Leave it there. Leave it there.
Cool. No, that's an exciting idea. One I'm probably going to order some of and have a little play around with.
On that note of the varieties that there's two of us wearing a Lotus hat right now, and I must admit I hadn't heard of Lotus until I literally got the hat out of the box today and went, oh, that sounds like an interesting variety. So what can you tell us about Lotus? How long has that been around for as well? Is that relatively new? Or?
Yeah, it's been quite popular in the US. We've not really got a huge foothold. It's just like when we've gone to prepare ourselves to market it, we've had other things that have come along that have been equally exciting. So it sort of got brushed under the, it was just more timing than anything. It certainly, it came around during lockdown as well. So it lost a bit of ground to other varieties, but it really does offer a lot of orange and vanilla. I mean, I visited some breweries this week down Cornwall, and they were really excited about doing a summer beer with it. I believe we've had a US brewer, because it tastes like, you remember the lollies you used to have as a kid with the ice cream in the middle and then the orange on the outside, or you get them with blackcurrant strawberry splits. You could get orange splits. It's like an orange split, and a nice pale that was nitric egged. It was just like, whoa, that's interesting. So it really does offer the vanilla notes. I think it would work equally well. I can't even speak now. It's that blooming Allura pale. That basically it works in really pale beers in a nice summer beer, but that orange and vanilla works quite well in a stout as well. So it's quite an interesting hop in that respect. Quite versatile.
Nice. So it's got the vanilla, gives it almost like a sort of creamy note.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes when you taste these flavors or smell these aromas, your body almost reacts to though it's a bit like having a decent pair of cans on. When you've got heavy bass, you almost feel the bass even though it's not even shaking your body. It's almost stimulates your olfactory system into sort of overdrive, really.
Alex from Lauman was talking about a specific term for the coconutty vanilla type lactones. Was it lactones?
Lactones, yeah.
Yeah. Is that the sort of thing that would be responsible for a vanilla flavour in this variety as well? Or?
Well, funny you should say that. My colleagues just done a collab with a brewery in London, and they were getting coconut notes from it. They were using the Salvo version of it. Can't remember offhand which other varieties they were using with it, but it certainly did give that that coconut note. Yeah.
Interesting. Awesome. So,
you're going to be grabbing some of that, Tricky, and giving it a blast.
I think it would have to be done at some point.
Can we expect that in a hop tester sometime soon?
I wouldn't say necessarily that soon, but at some point in the future, yeah. No doubt.
Well, the guy was really kind when he sent out the hats for all of us guys, that there were some little hop packs that were in there, some 1 ounce hop packs. And I can't actually remember what I sent you guys, but I do remember one of them was identifiable only by a number. Was it H1660, something like that?
Erebus. Was
correct.
That the Erebus? Yeah.
Yes.
Well done,
so of course it's got 666 in the experimental title. So we didn't exactly want to call it the devil or anything like that. So Erebus. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Erebus is the god of the dark underworld in mythology. So
I like this already. Let's go. Sounds brilliant.
Was this the really coconut forward one?
This one's really blueberry and citrus.
Oh, it's the blueberry one. Yeah.
Now I had this.
I've got the pack right here. I might open it up for a little.
Do it.
Yeah.
Live pellet sniffing.
So when I was over at CBC in the US last month, it was a new beer style on me, a Texan Brown, which, in all honesty, it sat somewhere between a porter and a stout. Not bitter enough to be a porter, but not quite creamy enough to be a stout.
I heard Owen rustling around there, and for a second I thought he just started eating the hops. Like
That's literally what I thought as well. I thought he just champed the pellet down
Owen,
in a way you
that's
went.
not how you do it. Don't do that.
It's
No,
what
I
you
just-
say.
I just opened my honey roasted
Yeah,
peanuts.
he's misunderstood the concept of hop rubbing there quite
Yeah, round his teeth.
quite catastrophically.
But this beer, as I say, it was somewhere in between a stout and a porter. Perhaps a little bit too much black malt for my personal taste. But the brewer did a fantastic job. It was almost like toasted tea cakes or blueberry muffins. It's almost like a toasted tea cake and put blueberries in it, if you like, rather than raisins.
That
It
sounds
was-
lovely.
It really floats my boat. I mean, I love most beer styles, as you can't tell off screen, as he pats his one pack. But yeah, I was really impressed with that beer. I mean, another product we had on at CBC as well was hop quench, and what we've actually done is isolate lemon and lime aromas from hops.
All right.
Now I think I was St. Chris.
Oh,
So we've
lemon
got-
and lime.
Yeah, LLZ.
Can I just tell you what I did with this earlier on? I got one of my glass bottles and I basically charged it up to 25 psi and carbonated some water, some filtered water that I got from the house. And then I put like 4 mils of this in.
Oh, not 4 mils, 4 drips.
No, I did way more than 4 drips. Go big or go home, guy. Come on. So this came. It's got a little plastic Pasteur pipette in it, which you just about see it there. And I'm used to using these for work, so I just dropped get in there, gave it a mix. It went a bit cloudy, and I tasted it, and I'm like, that's like flat Sprite. Okay, we need some more. So I put some more in, then I carbonated it up again. I had literally like a glass of Sprite sat at the side of me, flavoured only with this, and I just thought, that's amazing. I need some more in different flavours. It's really cool stuff.
I mean, it's opened up. I mean, it doesn't smell like a hop oil. It doesn't smell synthetic.
No, not at all.
It's just isolated hop oils that we've extracted. That's how good our flavour technologist is now. I've got a big shout out to Joey. He's a phenomenal guy, and it's great. If you just put it in flat water, it's like Volvic lemon and lime water. You know,
Exactly.
And brewers are getting so excited because some people want to do a low alc lager and put that in and have it as a radler, or you could go the other direction and go for a Mexican lager that's lemon and lime. And so we've got a few people experimenting with it at the moment, and it'd be interesting to see what the feedback is.
We don't see many low alc sours, do you? Is that even possible?
The thing is that a lot of the Alex from Lalamander or Andy from Lalamander would be better at answering this than me, but I would assume that the way that a lot of the bacteria inoculations that you use for sours munches the way through all the lactose and takes the fermentation right out, it will be very hard to produce a sour in that way. I mean, I must admit, I was brought up brewing because of my age. As soon as I detected those, it'd be ditched down the drain. But I don't mind kettle sours. I think, as I alluded to there, I think a kettle sour where you can ferment and still leave body in the beer, I quite like. But it's when you ferment a beer out and then inoculate it and take all of the body out, you strip the body out of the beer. That's not for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's always people that can do a fantastic job, but not really for me. Kettle sours, yes, but not full on.
You're not a fan of like spontaneous fermented beers and lambics and all that sort of stuff then, Guy?
Well, I can't say I'm not, because as long as, for me, beer is about balance. So, by all means, ramp up the hopping as long as you've got the backbone to support it. If it tastes good, it doesn't matter. It's just some people are better at making sours. I mean, I love the Belgian sours.
Yeah.
But it's when, you've got something that's full of salt or whatever, and deviate too far from where those beers really came from.
Can I just ask, Guy, do you know when you were at MCBF, did you wander around? Do you know where the guy was, the ginger chili company?
Yes.
Right. The place right, literally to the right-hand side of him. I can't remember what they were called, but they were doing like spawn beers there. Well, they weren't spawn, were they? They were like goat beers, essentially. What was the name of that company?
Was it Boone?
No.
Yeah.
Going with the T. Tillermans? Timmermans. Oh my God. Some of their beers were phenomenal, and they were really well balanced.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you're saying.
You've got to have that malt backbone for me, personally.
Owen did a kettle soured, it was passion fruit, wasn't it? The passion fruit, is it passion fruit kettle sour that you did,
I think
Owen?
it was, passion fruit
It
sour,
was epic. It was literally the beer that made me go from, I ain't drinking that shit, it's sour, to, I need to explore this world, and it's all Owen's fault. What a beer. It was very, very, very good. But like you say, when you have like a Bretted beer or anything like that, one of the things that I think I don't like about it so much is the fact that you've got that just lack of body. Like everything's been fermented out and it's thinner than water. I don't like champagne for the same reason. It feels like you're drinking nothing except bubbles. And you've got to have that. You've got to have that kind of that body within the beer to make you feel like you're actually drinking something. It can still be dry, don't get me wrong, but you've still got to have that ability to feel like you're drinking something. That's probably why I liked his passion fruit sour as much as I did. It was amazing.
Don't fancy making a brute IPA then, Chris?
No. No, I don't.
No, that's not a style that really stuck around, was it?
No, it really isn't. No, that was a 6-month flash in the pan.
As far as brief flash in the pan IPA styles, that's right there with.
I made one once.
Brute IPA, cold IPA. There's the ones that are going to die out the fastest, I think.
Cold IPA, you mean a lager?
Let's not even dignify it with the term lager, yeah.
Mountain IPA. Oh, what did I have? I had a beer from Cloudwater. It was called a Bright IPA.
Bright IPA.
So an IPA.
Anyone come across that before?
It's like IPA like them. Actually, no, to be fair, I think I had one from Blint Brewery that was called Bright IPA as well, and it was kind of like, well, what's the difference between that and your West Coast then? Because that's kind of the same thing.
They're just making up new styles on the hoof.
Oh, and Tricky's got his nose in a hot.
I'll keep coming back to him, going like the Erebus one still, but
Erebus. I never got
very, very pungent. As soon as I opened the packet, it was kind of like, whoa! I could smell that straight away.
Well, the thing is, that's actually crop 23 as well, because if it's crop 24, it would actually be called Erebus. So
really, wow, okay, so it's not necessarily the most recent version. It's, I mean, I personally, I don't necessarily put a lot of stock into smelling hops in their raw form, because I think you've already talked about this a bit yourself, Guy, in terms of it doesn't necessarily translate. Some varieties do, some don't. This one's very on the nose out the packet. It's very herbal sort of led for me anyway. There's definitely some sort of citrus peel, kind of pithy, lemony kind of. And as I say, lemon citrus on the packet as well, but there's definitely a sort of pithy, bitter sort of citrusy smell on it. It's not necessarily, super fruity as such, but obviously when it goes into a beer,
Yeah.
I guess we might be seeing something different to that. But in terms of just like potency, it smells very aromatic out of the packet.
It's really complex, and I think that's why we were very surprised the way it performed in beer, because being so intense in the way it is, as you mentioned, it's very sharp and quiet, but then those sort of aromas do flash off very easily.
Yeah.
So you think about Cascade. I mean, you get a batch of Cascade, and sometimes you go, "Oh wow, that's really, really grapefruity," and then you go, "Oh, where's that gone?"
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the thing is, I mean, you look at if you look at hop oils as a composition, as we already mentioned, myrcene's really quite high. But what you've got to remember is when you dry hop, you probably leave 90+% of myrcene behind. It's mainly caryophyllene that you're actually extracting. So when you use oils, so for argument's sake, we just mentioned Cascade, the highest oil is myrcene. Well, if you're adding an oil at dry hop stage, cold, you're adding myrcene, which you wouldn't normally add in such, in higher concentrations than you would with dry hopping. And that's why we're a little bit different in the respect that, we do oils, which, for argument's sake, if you're brewing a Pilsner 2%, with 2% starts, and your next batch comes in at 3%, you've got to reduce your addition rate, but also at the same, because of the alpha, but that means you've got to reduce your oil content. So your beer at the end has got less aroma. So that's why you would probably add near the end of fermentation or during maturation. So you've got a little bit of yeast there to assimilate myrcene, and then you can bring your beer back to where it was meant to be. I think that's where oils come from.
Can I take this to sort of mean then that if you are looking to add a specific flavour, we need to look at the solubility, volatility, and convertibility, for want of a better term, of the oils that are prevalent within the hops in order to work out exactly how they're best going to work dependent upon their place within the brewing process?
Absolutely. I mean, for argument's sake...
That's a whole different level of complexity that I didn't want to apply to beer.
Well, I've got a very simple answer. Put the oil a bit further back in your process. So you can get a similar... Well, no, just nearer the end of fermentation. So you give the myrcene the opportunity to flush off. I mean, what was really interesting when we were developing Salvo, I'm not sure whether I should be saying this online, but we did a hop extract of a variety, one of our proprietary varieties, I think it was Eureka, which is really high in oil. So it's a great hop to, develop oils from. You've got a lot of complex constituents there. The one bottle it's when we were developing Salvo, we opened one bottle, and because he's because he's a flavor technologist, he got the little paper spill, if you like. You waft it a bit like when you go and smell your perfume. And the one that was untreated, we'll say untreated, in its raw form, just smelled like a West Coast IPA all the way through. High in myrcene, high in everything, just extremely hoppy. The next one that had the myrcene removed smelled like a West Coast IPA. Then a NEPA, because you'd remove the myrcene. Because when you dry hopping, you're not extracting the myrcene. Because there's no temperature involved. It's amazing. The same hop variety, just removing the myrcene alone can give such a different character. So you've got a West Coast IPA and a NEPA from the same hop variety, with the myrcene removed. That was early part of the development. I'm not giving any secrets away.
Yeah, there's loads of questions I could ask, but I will save them. But just like how do you just like so easy just go, oh yeah, we just took the myrcene out? It's like I'm sure that's really complicated.
Yeah,
and it's fascinating that they could just sort of do that. It's mad.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. I mean, we developed oils for de-alt beers. So, if you get it, you're probably aware that they do a vacuum distillation, low temperature, low pressure, about 40 degrees, flush the alcohol off. Of course, some of the hop volatiles come out with that. But you've only got to do a GC of the beer beforehand, gas chromatograph, and then after the process, which hop oils have been lost. So we can just fractionate an oil, put the oils back that you've lost.
That's not complicated, Owen. That's pretty easy. That's fairly basic analytical science, that.
Fair dues. I'm not an analytical scientist. So,
no, you're not.
Yeah, it's a bit like sort of, someone gawping at the wheel.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
somebody built a wheel, and I'm like,
steering at the wheel of an 18-wheeler.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, I love that.
For God's sake, Andy's turned up. Here we go.
Oh, there he is.
Andy's in the chat.
There we go. That's our Scottish contingent.
He's right.
He's turned up and he's pissed. Wonderful. Can I just... Andy, guess what? I've got a bag of this and you don't. Ha ha. However, Guy says they've got loads on the website, so go and buy some, alright?
Scottish friendly prices as well.
Yeah.
Now, where do we get to? Has everyone opened the Märzen?
It's nearly gone, are we?
Yeah, I've nearly drank it, to be fair.
Yeah.
Have you opened the Märzen yet, Guy?
No, I haven't, because I haven't left the table. I was... my fridge is only... If you bear with me for 2 seconds...
I'll tell you what we'll do then. Welcome. We will just take a short break while you go and grab yourself a beer. And we will continue when you get back.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to have a sort of intermission.
This is fucking excellent.
Where you can go and buy a tub of ice cream.
Is this the standard Märzen recipe that you've used before?
No.
The award winner?
No, I don't think it is.
Adapted
actually.
award winner?
Yeah, I think
or
so.
Or a brand new recipe? Evolution, not revolution. Where are we going with it?
I think it was. I think actually it was an entirely new recipe.
Okay.
But I'd have to go have a look. This was my first foray into decoction mashing.
And rather than go for a single decoction, we went for a...
I went a double and spent 7
lazy
or so
shuttle
hours.
On the triple.
I think he was lazy as well, Tricky, I'll be honest.
So, yeah, I should have gone triple, but who has the time for that? So, I went floor malt.
Nobody got time for that.
Floor malt Bohemian Pilsner.
Yeah.
So I did depart away from Chris's Märzen recipe, and I kind of went with a slightly more simplified and probably more not being disingenuous to Chris, but being I went more traditionally German. So I went floor malted Bohemian Pilsner, Vienna malt, light Munich malt, and Cara Munich 3.
Yeah.
Primarily for the colour, but a little bit of flavour. I went SARS at 60 minutes, Hallertau Hersbrucker at 30 minutes, and I fermented it out with WHC Hopping Pills, which is WLP 820, which is the classic Märzen yeast.
It is indeed.
And yeah, it was double decocted, and this is the second keg. The first keg's gone. It's been in the keg for quite a while. I was getting I did put it into some comps and didn't do particularly well. The criticism.
What was the feedback on it then? That was not.
I think there was a little bit of a kind of phenolic note on it.
Nah, don't get
I don't
that.
get that at all.
I think
I'm very sensitive to the phenolic.
You get a really fruity character from this beer, which I think is a combination of the yeast, which is quite fruity, and probably the malt.
I just get layers of caramel. I don't really get much in the way of fruit. I mean maybe
fair,
some really dark berries.
Style for a Märzen, you're not necessarily supposed to have outright caramel flavour in it, but
No.
it's very tasty. It's just,
God, it's fucking epic.
but
Yeah.
I don't think phenolic would be anything that would even come close to picking
No.
out this beer, personally.
No, I think maybe
Not for me.
It's possibly just sort of lagered out because it's been in the keg so flipping long. It's not been, well, it's probably been in the keg months, I would say. Let's have a look. When did I keg it? 152 days ago. So 6 months ago.
One thing I like is what you get from a lot of character of beers from that area, primarily from the yeast and the malts, is that really nice bready note that you get in a good Helles. Because it's got obviously more robustness than a Helles, but it's more like a Nuremberg Helles, where they seem to use or ferment out a little bit. They don't ferment out quite as much as a German Helles, which I always find a little bit crisper.
Yeah.
But that's great. There's no phenolic there. I'm really sensitive to phenolics.
Yeah.
When you do your brewing training and whatever, you get to know what you're sensitive to. I'm not the most sensitive to diacetyl. But no, there's certainly no phenolics in there. It's got a lovely bready note.
It sounds like I've got a similar palate to me, Guy, because I'm not great with diacetyl, but if anything's remotely like phenolic, or especially with chlorophenols, if there's any kind of that bleach contamination, I'll get that from like the next room. With beers. Like, I can't
I'm very sensitive to acetaldehyde. Like I'll pick that up really easily. It's got like a nice sort of like brown bread, light brown bread crust.
Mm-hmm.
It's got kind of almost like a toasted brioche flavour to it. I'm actually really pleased with it for a first attempt at what was a new recipe as well as decoction mashing. But it is quite a big beer. It did come in at 6.4%.
So a potential just get going on the sort of style wise, bearing in mind you put it into competitions. Do you think you could potentially put that in as a bock rather than a Märzen?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah,
with the higher strength as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
And I'm not saying that just purely based on your beer. That's also based on the Märzen that I've made recently, which I'm kind of thinking is a little bit more
bocky,
caramelly and a little bit stronger than it probably should be for a Märzen. I'm kind of going, that might actually score better in the slightly higher strength category.
Well, considering the strength of it at 6.4, I'm not getting any fusel alcohols or anything like that. It's really, it's really clean.
Yeah,
it's a good
not
beer.
detectably stronger, but just as maybe a slightly richer, more. There is a slight caramelly sweetness on there, which I think is noted in the style guidelines as it shouldn't be in a Märzen. I think I think it's one of those where it's like, how do you define bready sweetness versus caramel? Is a bit of a grey area. Do you know what I mean?
I would agree. Like if I was to remake it, I might just like pare that caramel unit back a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe up the Vienna a bit more. So yeah, I think it's one to remake. My next venture in decoction mashing is going to be a dark Czech lager, which I've been meaning to make for ages. But really want to have a stab at that.
Guy, you mentioned I think you mentioned that you had professional brewing experience prior to working at Hopsteiner. Where was that, and what sort of brewing were you doing?
Well, I first started off at Sarah Hughes Brewery, brewing dark really mild. As you are when you're a student, you start working on the bar. And they just opened a brewery behind me, behind where I was working. And I was studying chemistry, and there's only so many experiments you can do and stick the resultant thing between two crystals and go, oh, it is what I thought it was. So Wolverhampton Dudley Breweries, Banksy's at the time, used to send a load of people over to study microbiology. So they've got a great brewing library. And to say the rest is history, I paid for myself to do my IBD or CIBD brewing course, and yeah, that was it. Set up a few breweries along the way, helped out with quite a few, and then this opportunity arose at Hopsteiner. So yeah, spent 20 years brewing commercially, and I've got to say, going back to your miles note, I do a lot of judging, and I've certainly tasted a lot worse.
Yeah.
Professional brewers. That wasn't damning with faint praise, by the way.
He'll take that.
That's really good beer because now I've got to say that those styles of beer, be it a lager or a Helles or any of the traditional brewing methods that aren't UK brewing methods, you can. It's like hiding an elephant behind a lamppost. If you made any mistakes, So. No, cheers. Thanks for sending them through. It's really good beer.
You're absolutely welcome, Guy. Thanks for the hat. Thanks for the hops. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's the least I could do. And thanks for the kind feedback. So, yeah, I'm very pleased with that. I might be drinking more of it.
No, I would certainly do so.
Yeah, now I know it's on tap.
What did I miss?
You missed Jack and Andy being pretty rowdy in the chat.
Standard.
Apparently Andy had sex with a pug. Not sure how true that is.
Well, welcome to the Hop Edition, Guy.
Thank you for having me.
This is what happens when you let the Scottish contingent drink beer. No wonder they're taxing it so highly.
They'll be rubbing baby oil into each other and wrestling soon enough.
Probably, yeah. I'm tempted to just kick him out of the chat, but anyway, I missed some. I had to nip inside and talk to my daughter. We've covered pretty much everything. Have we covered the last question yet? Because that's quite an important one.
I think we kind of did a bit earlier, yeah.
So, salvo hop varietals.
Maybe not the final part of that.
Excellent. So, which salvo hop variety... I know I'm jumping in and completely dragging the conversation away from where it was, but which salvo hop varietals would you recommend based on different styles? So, specifically, hazy, westy, lager, and dark beers. Because, let's face it, we're home brewers, and it's cheap, so we're probably going to buy a pot. So let's see what you recommend and where we can go with these salvo things.
I think when you look at the hop varieties and what you normally use in your beer, you can just use salvo. It's as simple as that. So hazies, you look at anything from Trident, Sultana, any of the fruitier sides, and even Allura, because if you're doing a hazy, it could be anything. It could be anything from a NEPA right the way through to a nice sessionable, pale ale. So, you go from whaling it in to judicial use, really. So yeah, I think it's just a case of trying to match your oils and then reducing your dry hop accordingly. So if you're normally adding, I don't know, a variety Centennial, for argument's sake, 1.2% oil, you would just be adding Centennial at 12% oil. So, it's just reducing it by a factor of 10, and then you're not needing to dry hop as much. So Westies, West Coasts, that could be anything really. One thing I would say that goes well with bittering is Bravo. It's quite clean, quite orangey, which goes quite nice with, because obviously with the West, I don't know, it's so high in geraniol that you're going to get so much biotransformation, and that's what you're looking for. But it does give that nice floral note as well, which I think you want in the head of your beer. Because my favorite type of beer really is almost like a session IPA. You smell the head of your beer and think, Christ, that's hoppy, I'm going to struggle to drink that. And then next thing you know, you get into the beer itself and you go, oh, Christ, that's drinkable and balanced. And it just keeps wanting you to go back for more. I sound like a raging alcoholic here, but You know,
welcome to the hop edition.
You're amongst friends. Don't worry, guy.
I mean, I think it's a case of actually looking and doing your homework as well. So we touched on Calypso earlier, that's high in 4-MMP. You've got Centennial that's high in 4-MP. You've got Cascade at high in 3-MP. They're all sort of thiols that you want in your beer, you know, or to create complexity. Because you've got to remember, if you pick a variety and say you do a GC and it's got 5 main component oils, going through biotransformation, just generally, you're going to end up with 10 oils in there at a slightly lower intensity. And I think that's where where Salvo gives you that sort of flexibility to dose small amounts and get your beer as complex as possible without adding bitterness. And Salvo allows you to do that. So it's almost like looking at, as I mentioned earlier, an artist. He'll only use probably 15 colours, you know, but he can create a huge array of aromas and flavours from that. So you need to look at a hop that's high in, you know, the thiols, as was mentioned earlier, high in geraniol, high in this, high in that. And then if you have got those in your arsenal, you can basically create whatever beer style you like and create whatever flavour you like.
Okay, so if we're going for your favourite session IPA style beer, Guy, out of your Hopsteiner catalogue, what would be your recommended? Let's limit it to 3 varieties. Which 3 varieties are you going to go for?
My 3 favourite that beer. I would say Solero, and from our varieties, I would say Solero and Allura together.
Just 2 then. We're not going for a third.
Okay.
You don't have to. I think just those 2 would be better.
A third.
And I'd like to play around with Lotus a lot more. I think it's an underrated hop. And I'm going to end up with 4 now, even though I was going to stick it to. I've twisted, so I might as well go for the 5-card trick. I think we've got so many in our arsenal that if I was still brewing, I'd be doing a lot more. Much more experimentation, and I think that working with brewers so closely as we do, I think there's a lot of merit in Trident as well, because that gives you such a base to work from. You know, it's so complex. I mean, as you've alluded to, yes, it is a blend, obviously 3 hops. That gives you such a sound basis. It's almost referring back to artists again. You've got your background done. You can paint the detail on top of a variety like Trident, or a variety, you know, a blend. It really is versatile.
Nice. One of the things that we've often talked about on this podcast is the idea of a scaffolding hop, something off of which you can build. And I mean, me and Tricky and Owen and Andy, we've all said, you know, nobles tend to give you that really nice kind of base flavour to be able to build almost anything off of. And one of the things that Tricky said when he was talking about Allura was, it seems to be a really good hop to kind of build off. I'm not misquoting you there, am I, Trick?
I may have said that at some point.
I think I made that one, actually.
Was it you, Owen? Sorry.
Yeah. I think it could potentially create like a really nice foundation to just be able to add a couple of other top notes. But otherwise, actually, I think it can stand alone as well.
It did. It's a great hop. I loved it. I thought it was great.
I think my favourite hop for flexibility is probably Solero, because it's German. It exhibits those noble notes, which means that it's not overpowering in that respect. But because obviously being a German hop, it's not ridiculously priced or anything like that. You can actually ramp it up from a nice lager beer right the way through pale ales, and right the way. I mean, I don't know whether you ever tried Moonwake Solero. I've got a shout out to Vinny at Moonwake. Their Solero IPA or pale ale, 5.6. It's just stonking. You know, it's not. We couldn't do what we do without really good brewers. showcasing the hops and showing what they can do. And I think that's really important, with our relationships with brewers. So I think from a flexibility point of view, if you wanted to produce all of those beers, I mean, dark beers, I'd probably be looking at Helios or something like that. But the thing is, something like Solero, it's really, you can ramp it up. It doesn't get aggressive. All it does is add more mango. There's some great hops in our arsenal, and I think it's just exciting times for us, and the product as well. Means you can move the boundaries and still be able to brew beer without the issues of throwing more hops in. Getting your beer clear. Fermentation issues, etc., etc. So yeah, it's I love dark beers. Sometimes I just think sometimes the malt needs to shine through, as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. Is this been the equivalent of us asking which of your children are your favourite? Is this?
Oh, I don't have no problem answering that.
Wait, wasn't it? Didn't Moot have a beer called Helios?
Yeah, they did a lager. Yeah, there was a Helios lager. Yeah, but I don't know whether they used Helios.
I don't know if they did, but I know they had a beer called it. So yeah, no.
So
I thought that was the West Coast IPA, wasn't it?
Was it a Westie?
I think it was a. Was it Mid Coast?
I'm going West Coast.
Owen's on their website.
Or was
right
it up
now,
a mountain, or somewhere in between the coasts?
It was an IPA, super juicy modern take on the IPA.
Well, Helios is more of a bittering hop. So, I mean, just to give you an example of our breeding program, some of the most popular hops out there only yield a few bales per acre, and Helios will yield about 16 to 18 bales. So, that's growing in these conditions now. So yeah, it's a versatile hop. It'll probably replace Hercules as time goes on. It's the main bittering hop, that one.
Yeah, it was a Pacific IPA. There's another IPA category.
What the hell's a Pacific IPA?
Well, I'm gonna have to Google it.
Is it something that's got Sriracha Ace in that nobody wants to drink?
Generally refers to an IPA that incorporates hop varieties, flavours and characteristics inspired by the Pacific Northwest or New Zealand.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Why can't they just call it beer? Anyway. One thing I will say right now is this has been an incredibly interesting podcast. We've all learnt quite a lot, guys. So thank you for coming on. I do genuinely appreciate it. There will be, after this, a little bit of like an after party where hopefully a lot of the people who are currently listening live will jump on and have loads of questions for you. Are you willing to stick around for a little bit and sort of answer some of those questions?
I'm happy to do so.
I'm guarantee you've got plenty of beers in the fridge, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured as much. Yeah. Also, it won't be recorded, so we can answer those questions a little more succinctly, let's say. And also, there are going to be a lot because I've seen questions coming up in the chat and I've genuinely ignored a few of them because I figured, we could chat about that in the after party. But yeah, amazing beers, Owen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Really nice. And also, Allura is rapidly becoming my new favourite hop based on the flavour that I got from that beer. And that's going into a New Zealand Pils very, very soon in my brew house.
Yeah, listen, I'm off on a holiday to Wales in August, and I know that based on the family members that are attending, I'm going to need at least 2 kegs for the week. And I think it will be the Allura Pale Ale getting rebrewed and the New Zealand Pils getting rebrewed.
They're amazing.
Yeah, both of those would be crowd pleasers, mate, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they were superb. They were really, really nice. So, right. I'll tell you what we're going to do then. We're going to put a pin in episode 117 unless either of you two gentlemen have another question.
I am
I think
fully
we covered
inspired.
everything, to be honest. I'm spent.
Right. In that case, I'm going to hand over to one of my two friends who looks like a trucker. Pick one. And I'm going to let you do the closing while I sort out the Google Meet so we can jump into that one.
Dib's not me.
Oh, okay. I'll do it then. Don't worry. All right. Thanks, everybody. That is episode 117 in the bag. Many thanks to Guy from Hopsteiner for joining us on the podcast this evening. And yeah, make sure you get along to the after party if you are listening or watching this one live. And we'll see you soon for the next episode. Make sure you jump over to Hop Edition and check them out for all of your homebrewing needs.
No, that would be the Malt Miller, not the Hop Edition, you donut.
Yeah,
Did I just say the Hop Edition?
You did.
Dole!
No.
Guy's got mates in.
Anyway,
Guy's got friends.
it's all gone tits
that's
up
me
on
wife.
the outro.
We're going to rinse Tricky for his outro performance.
I'm going to do that one again. That's episode 117 in the bag. Thanks very much to the Guy from the Hopsteiner for joining us. Make sure you go and check out the Malt Miller. This is going to be heavily edited. For all of your homebrewing needs. And we'll see you soon on the next episode. Cheers, guys. And if you're free, get on the after party. Nice one. Say goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Adios. Well done, Tricky.